This is Dean Gaines. He has got a great channel, puts up some awesome YouTubes. And let me mention here that if members, if you do YouTubes, if you have a channel, if you post stuff on Facebook or whatever, copy our webmaster, Dave, at our website. He'll list your site. So if you're looking, oh, I wonder how I can find Dave, it's going to be right there on the site. So that's what we're looking to do. It's all the future wood turning, like Dave's going to do right now.
Good deal. Well, hello, folks. Welcome to my shop. And what we're going to do tonight is turn across and give you just a little bit of history. I believe it was 2016. My wife was in the hospital, and I had been up there several days with her, totally exhausted. And between her and the nurses, they basically ran me off. And of course, it didn't do a lot of good to come home and try to get any sleep because I was worried about her. Finally got to sleep, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up wide awake with the idea to turn across. And you know, I don't know how everybody believes, but in my belief and my faith, God told me I needed to get up and make a cross. And I argued with him, as a lot of times we do, and tried to roll over and go back to sleep. And after about 30-40 minutes of laying there very restless, I got up and made the first cross. After I made it, I was sure that I had seen that somewhere, so I searched the internet up one side and down the other, did Google search for images. I did not find another single cross turned like we turned, or like I was turning. And so, you know, I'll give credit where credit came from, and God wanted me to make a cross. I believe he wanted me to share that with everybody else. And that's my belief and my faith. I took that one to the hospital to give to my wife. And of course, several nurses had to have one. Then my daughter had to have one. Do I have to tell you guys where it went from there? A couple of years ago, I guess about 3 years ago now, I uploaded a video onto YouTube that, let's just say it was done with an iPhone. The quality wasn't that great, but it's had over 18,000 views. And I have received photographs from people literally all over the world showing me photographs of the crosses they made. And that just spurred me on to want to share it more. And I decided a year ago to put together the equipment so that I could do these interactive remote demonstrations. And it literally, with all the COVID and everything, took a year to get all the equipment in, everything together, so that I could do it the way I wanted to do it. Let me just share an image with you guys here. That's 3 of the crosses that set in my living room. Normally, one of them's out here with me tonight, or 2 of them, I guess, but normally those set in the living room. And just it gives you guys a visual of what we're going to do. I went ahead and basically did what I'll call a storyboard. And it shows you from start to finish, basically the steps that we're going to go through tonight. And we're going to start off with just a simple limb. All we're going to do is we're just going to make it round. We're not worried about getting all of the bark off of it. You can notice there's just a little bit still left there. We're going to make it round. Once we've accomplished that task, we're going to make a couple of marks here so we know where the disc is that's going to form the cross. The next step is going to be to cut a little bit of a relief on either side of that so we don't go knocking it off and messing that part up. Then we're going to go ahead and bring the shaft down and bring this down a little bit. Normally, when I'm turning these for like a production mode to get several of them turned, I'll turn them between centers. It is somewhat easier to turn and everything if you put it in a chuck. Therefore, tonight, I'm going to show you guys with it being in a chuck. after you get going, you want to speed up, you want to make them a little bit faster, you can do that, and that's up to your discretion. But just be careful and be safe. The last step is you reduce it down to something that looks very similar to what we've got here. And then we're going to go over to the bandsaw. And I'm going to share with you guys exactly what we do on the bandsaw and some pointers to make it a little bit safer. Okay? Do I have any questions up to this point?
What wood do you find the best to use?
Free limbs. I enjoy the crepe myrtles because I just like the way the wood looks. The elms, any wood that has a little bit of color in it, to me is going to be prettier than just a lighter wood. I can't say that I really have a favorite. If I did, it would probably be pear because I love the way it spalts, and I'll set it out, and that's the one wood that I really kind of stick back and I don't turn green as often as I do the others. Most of the wood that I make the crosses out of is turned green.
Have you ever used dogwood?
I haven't, because I haven't gotten a hold of any, but that is one wood that I would love to do.
I said the elm. I've made some real pretty crosses with elm. The grain structure just comes out really nice.
Okay, here's the deal, folks. If you got a piece of wood you want them to give it a try, send it to them.
There you go. Thank you, Cap.
Do you have any problem with checking?
We're going to talk about checking and how to treat the green wood. And if you just turn it and set it over and just let it dry, yes, it's going to check, crack, split. You're going to have a mess. But we're going to absolutely talk about that. And I don't mind divulging secrets a little bit earlier. It has to do with putting finish on it as soon as you turn it.
Okay.
Or very soon afterwards.
Talking about turning, let's rock and roll.
Let's do this. I want to show you guys one more thing here before we start, only because I did put it on YouTube and I did get so many pictures back. If you look at this diagram, it basically has the outline of the cross that I'm doing. Okay, so the limb, whatever size the piece of wood is, determines how wide that cross is. The way you determine how tall the top is it's going to be half the height or half the width of that cross. So if your cross is 2 inches, that top part's 1 inch. The bottom part needs to be roughly 3 times whatever the top is. So if the top's 1 inch, the bottom part's 3 inches. And then the base, I personally like about 1.5 times whatever the top is. And the reason I say that and the reason I put that in there is because looking at some of the crosses that have been turned, that have been sent back to me. In fact, one guy did a YouTube video of it. He took it in to show his wife and she did not know what it was. So if you don't keep those ratios right, you'll create something that maybe won't be exactly what you want it to be. Yeah, I know a lot of turners, they talk about, well, I can't wear a face shield when I'm doing a demo because you can't hear me. Well, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I like my face. You may not think I'm pretty, but I do. And I bet you can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I've heard that excuse too many times by good turners, so I don't believe.
Yeah, I don't go for that, Captain. It's and we'll start the lathe off slow. And if you've got a variable speed lathe, start it off slow. You're not in a rush at the beginning. We're going to go ahead and bring it up to speed. And all we're going to do on this first step is just get a spindle roughing gouge, and we're going to make it round. Again, nothing Nothing but just getting it round so that we got something to work with. Let's see what we've got here. Again, we still got a little bit of bark there, but we can work with that. I recommend that if you're going to do this, that you get you a straight edge. And so if I run that straight edge across there, I'm going to find out that that is roughly 2.5 inches. So if it's 2.5 inches, about 1.25 inches back is where I want the top of my cross. But I've got a point sticking off in here. So I'm going to come back to 1.5 inches. I'm going to make myself a mark right there. Now here's where you determine how thick your spindle is and how thick the disc is, or the cross portion of the cross. We'll start off about right there. Again, if you want a beefier cross, make it wider there. If you want a daintier cross, make it slimmer. And at this point, I'm going to come in with a skew, and I'm just going to make myself a couple of cuts there. And all I'm doing at that point is just separating that out. We'll come right in here. We'll just bring that back. Again, we're just making some light cuts here. We're not in a big hurry. This is green wood, and I believe it is maple. So, let's go ahead and do the same thing on the other side.
Please notice the planing cuts he's making with that skew. Those are all planing cuts.
They are. And guys, don't be afraid of a tool. If you've got one you don't understand or you're having problems with it, get somebody to help you and learn how to use it. But I know a lot of folks, man, they're just almost scared of a skew, and it's a great tool. And I think you're really missing the boat if you don't learn to use it. But then that's just my opinion. Again, you see where we're at. We just came in and roughed that out. We separated it. So now we've got something to work with. Now all we're going to do is take a bowl gouge, and we're just going to come in and reduce the size. It's just a little bit high there. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to reduce it.
Now, since you're essentially between centers, even though you're in a chuck and you got the tailstock up, you're going to get very little vibration when you reduce this.
My opinion, anytime you can keep the tailstock up, you're better off doing that. It's just that extra little bit of safety in there. And why not?
Don't you love the ribbons? Look at the ribbons.
I could do you know, that's one of the things I like about turning bowls is, you know, I could spray ribbons across the shop all day long and be perfectly happy. Now, let's talk about this right now. We're roughed in, but you see how that straight edge rocks back and forth across there? Over here, it's just a little bit the other way. We've got just a little bit of space in the middle. So if I don't straighten that out, we're going to have a problem, and our cross is going to come out and go up like this. And that's not what we really want to do. Everybody might do this a little bit different. I like to do it with a skew. And we'll go ahead and switch over to that view so you guys can see what I'm doing here. I don't come in straight with the skew. I turn it so that the bevel is coming in straight. Once you've done that, you think you're straight, stop it. Take your straight edge, hold it on there. See that moving just a little bit? Not much, but it's moving. That one's not. So let's take one more little cut there. Rock solid. And that's what we want, so we've got that straight there. Okay? Once we're at that point, now we just need to bring our shaft down to the size we want it and take another cut so any bark or anything like that that we've got here, so we can get that off. Okay? So I'll go ahead and take a cut right here real quick. That should be all it takes to get that round. Let's see. Maybe one more.
You really only need it to be round with respect to 2 points, 180 degrees across the center, right?
With exactly right. And with this one, I'm going to actually, if you're looking straight at it, you can see this side over here is a little further in. And I think we're probably going to make this the front right here. We'll see. I will typically put this in so that it's just a little off center. And if I can get the pith to run up that, it puts some really neat color in there, folks.
How wide do you make your cross piece?
How wide do I make the cross piece?
Yes.
That is determined by whatever size the limb is.
No, I mean the thickness of it. That's
one
there.
of those things that you just have to eyeball. I usually make them anywhere from on a big one like that, that's about 3/4 of an inch. On the majority of them that I make and sell and give away are like this, which is about 3/8 of an inch. I will tell you, if people err at all, they err on making it too thick.
So is the cross piece about the same thickness as the up and down piece?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that actually is what determines how thick your spindle is. So whatever thickness you make this, now you've got to come in and get that spindle the same thickness. The other thing is, Remember a while ago, we said we wanted this top to be about half what the width is. Well, now our width is just a little more than 2 inches, about 2 1/4. So we can mark our height here, and we're going to have that about right there. And we want that 4 times that. So we're going to have a space right about in here. Give you guys a better view. Right about in here is going to be where we're going to start our, this is all going to be shaft. So I've got about another inch of this to take off. So let's get started on that.
In the beginning of the demonstration, he showed a sketch that had these proportions on it, and that'll be on a cutaway that Dave will post on our website.
We're going to have to move this over just a wee bit too.
And he stops his lathe before he moves the tool rest.
Always a good habit. Folks talking about losing fingers and all that kind of stuff. I want to keep mine right where they're at. Yeah, we got to drop that down just a little bit too. You're a little further when you're turning on that shaft. Your tool's got a little bit more overhang than what you might like for it to. So we're just going to walk that gouge right down that shaft. Okay. Now, one of the things that I like to do, just to smooth everything out here, is take that skew run it right down that shaft. And you just almost eliminated the sanding by doing that. You absolutely reduced it. Okay, so we're going to come back up top here. Does that give you guys a better view there? Or?
Yeah, Dean, it does.
Good deal. This tip here, you can knock that down a little bit, but you kind of want to keep you a little bit of meat on that. It'll help reduce that vibration.
Yeah.
And I know there's some new turners on here. One of the things that you'll notice is I'm not pushing the tool into the work and then moving it. You drive that gouge back here, not up here. So when I'm pushing that tool in and I'm coming in like this, the back hand is what's driving it, not the front one, okay?
Good tip.
Let
your body move with it.
Yeah. You force your bevel to work.
Exactly. Let that bevel do the work for you. If you're tired when you get through turning and you're not turning very long, you're probably forcing something to happen instead of letting it happen like it wants to.
That also prevents the serrated whoop-de-doos that get cut on there if you're using your hand to move the tool.
Exactly. One other thing, if we got some folks that I know are using some carbide tools, and I use some carbide tools for some things myself, but one of the things I see so much on YouTube is you learn to use that carbide tool by laying it down on the tool rest and pushing it straight in. And that's okay. But when you pick up one of these, don't lay it on the tool rest and push it straight in, especially if you're pushing it into end grain. And I see that so much where guys are swapping out between one and the other, and they're using them both the same. Get with a buddy or somebody that knows a little bit about turning, been doing it a while, and let them show you some techniques.
You're on a piece of 2x4. Really challenge
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think that working with the skew really helps that, because it teaches you how to manage your edge control, and that follows to the bowl gouge. It's something you can take right to the bowl gouge too. Teaches you, and then you can take it to the
Right.
carbides and do shear cutting with the carbides too, once you learn how to use the skew.
Okay, so I just basically took a rough look, so now I know where I need to cut this off. And I made myself a little mark up here. So we'll go ahead and spin it up. And when I made that little mark, I realized I need to make a little cut right there. And it looks like I might have got that just a little bit. And since we're going to free that thing up, again, we're not in a hurry, are we?
Dean, how did you get that measurement?
Good question. Let's just stop this. Okay, remember, let me just go back to, let's go back to the steel a little bit. That top section, the section right here, that's going to be half of the cross. So if the cross is, we're looking at, about 2 1/4 there. So I'm going just a little over 1 inch right there. And that's how I got my measurement for the top.
Thank you.
Okay. If we notice the section below the cross, that's going to be 3 times whatever the top is. So let's go down here and look at this. We've actually got it about 4 times. So this one's a little bit taller than normally. I guess I brought it back just a little bit more than I was thinking. But if you're going to err on this here, err along. I've got one that I made several inches taller. And, just playing with it. I took it to a show, and before I turned around, it was gone. So you don't have to adhere directly to every measurement. You can play around with them a little bit. But if you got one that's 3 inches wide and the whole cross is 2.5 inches tall, it's not going to look right. Okay. So I think we're ready to go ahead and part this off. I will release the tailstock at this point. We'll go back to our overhead view, turn it back on. Now, you guys see we got just a little bit of wobble there? When you got a good sharp skew, it'll cut it off so sweet, so easy on that green wood. Let's go ahead and move our rest just a little bit there, because we're going to part this off at the bottom now. Now again, typically I want this about 1.5 times whatever the top is. It doesn't have to be exact. I want to give you guys a view like that. Here, let's go back to this. I'm going to come into that. Instead of coming in with my handle down, I'm going to raise my handle up. And I'm going to come into that. And when it starts hitting that bark, I'm going to slowly drop that handle and then push in and cut. So why do I do that? The reason I do that, you got this bark here. Now on this, I think it's probably pretty tight, but it's not always tight on every piece of wood. You come in like this, what do you think it's doing to that bark?
You're gonna peel it
That's
right
a
off.
peeling cut. It's going to take it off of there. So raise it up, come in. When you feel it start to cut, let it scrape for just a little bit and then push in and let it down. You'll like the results a whole lot better. Let's see if y'all can get a better view like that. I believe you can. Scraping, starting to lower that handle down. I'm in past the bark. Now I'm going to push and raise the handle back up. Now, one other thing. We don't want this getting pinched in there. You got plenty of time again. Go ahead and let's make us another cut right down beside it. Now, one of the things that does is it also allows you, instead of coming straight in, to now come over just a little bit with the tail of that tool and go up in there. And so you've got a concave bottom. It's setting on the outside edge. It'll set flat.
And consider this is green wood, so it's going to move.
Absolutely. I don't know how many of you think that looks like a cross, but I don't. So we're going to finish this up and make it look like a cross at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change over. We're going to go to the bandsaw for just a minute.
It's 30 minutes after the hour, folks. I'm Captain Eddie Kessler, and you turn to Worldwide Woodturners.org, a weekly program. Everybody's invited. In a little while, we'll do a little more gallery, but we have 2 more demonstrations lined up for tonight. So stick with us. If you have a gallery piece, our co-host Dane handles that. All you need to do is go to our chat section and put in I have gallery. And if it's a piece made out of 2x4, note 2x4. All right, we're back here right now, and we're doing a demonstration on making a cross. And Dean's got us. What you got?
Okay, sir. This is my bandsaw, and I want everybody to look at this piece right here. Everybody's got a bandsaw that's got an insert in it, right? Let's take a look at that insert. You notice how that cross fits right on in there. Now, how many of you think it feels safe to cut that with that in there like that? I don't. Grab you a piece of wood. It doesn't matter. This happens to be a 1/4 inch piece of, I think it's MDF with some laminate on it. Make yourself a 0 clearance insert. Anytime you're cutting anything small on a bandsaw, this is a safety tip right here. This alone could save your finger. Again, the good Lord put mine on my hand. I intend on keeping them there. Okay? The other thing is, I don't know how many people want their hand off in here cutting this off, but not me. Let's zoom back out just a little bit so you guys can see what I've got here. I think just about every woodworker has a clamp like this.
Yep.
If you don't, they're not expensive. Go get you one. With a clamp
Very
like that, you can put this in the clamp. Now, guess what? When you look at the side of the clamp, that's either the front or the back of the cross. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a nice little mark there for the pith. Okay, sometimes that's more significant, goes all the way up. But every one of these I've ever turned, there was one side that I preferred to be the front. By doing this, you don't cut it and realize, oh, geez, I just cut the front off of it. Now the front's the side. With the bandsaw, I'm going to come in, I'm going to lay that flat, and I'm just going to push that over. So now I got more than one point of contact for cutting this. Every one of these blades has a set on it. That means the tooth cuts a little bit wider than the blade. So how are we going to get this cut exactly down the side of this without messing up the shaft here? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to come in, we're going to touch the back of that blade. If you're touching the back of the blade, nothing's cutting. We're going to move it in until just before the set of that tooth contacts that shaft, and then we're going to slide it right on through. Okay, so with that said, let's do it here. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit more for you guys.
Looks good.
Okay, so again, we're touching the back of the blade. We're coming around just before those teeth, that set starts to touch the shaft. We're pushing it through. Now, guys, if you reach down and put your finger that close to the blade to pick up that piece of wood, you're going to eventually have a problem. There's too many things you can reach in there and rake that back so it doesn't create a problem for you. Now, we're going to come in here. We're going to do just the opposite on the other side. Again, I'm going to touch the back of that blade, push it straight on through. Again, that piece of wood can lay there forever. As long as that blade's spinning, Dean's finger is not going to go in there close to it. Let me walk back over here so I can show you guys what we've got. Folks, that's how I make a cross on the lathe. And yes, we have a little bit of bandsaw technique in there. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that just a little bit so you guys can see that. Couple of tips to go along with it. The way I sand this piece is I will take my power sander, tip it up, and use the edge of that and go back and forth. When you're doing that, you're going with the grain. It makes sanding it real quick. The other thing is, we talked about what do we do to keep it from cracking? Well, that's what I use. Danish Oil is another good product to use. In fact, I used Danish Oil on these for a couple of years before somebody told me about the antique oil, and I tried it and I like it better. But I will tell you, the Danish Oil works just fine. And folks, I don't know, I make a lot of these. I sell them. I give away more than I sell. Because especially right now, there's a lot of folks in our country and around the world that need one of these. And all I ask is if you like what you saw, go make some, give some away, sell some, but most of all, get out in your shop, get off this computer, go watch, instead of watching TV, go out in your shop and make something. With that, any questions? But the only thing else I've got to add is stay safe, stay healthy, and happy turning.
Great demo, Dean.
Thank you,
Great.
man. That was great.
Thank you.
Dave,
Devo.
nice job.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Nice
Thank
job.
you.
Good job. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, that was great.
Great demo, Dean. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.